find travelling up the Ayrshire coast behind Fairburn Tank 42196 on the 22nd of June 1962 as it approaches Winton Pier, Ardrossan. At this time, services operated to the Isle of Arran, but by 1970 the pier station had closed. Following this brief visit to Ardrossan, the rail tour continued northwards to Fairley Pier, from where a shorter one-hour steamer service to the Isle of Arran operated. But with BR policy being to close smaller piers, its days were numbered, and closure came in 1972. The Pencil Monument, commemorating the 13th century Battle of Largs, heralds the tour's brief visit to one of the most popular Clyde coastal resorts. Returning southwards, 42196 and her train headed once more into Ardrossan, passing the closed Montgomery Street station on the approaches to Montgomery Pier, which was opened originally by the Caledonian Railway to challenge the GSWR for the lucrative steamer services. From Ardrossan, services operated to Belfast, in addition to the Isle of Arran and the Isle of Man. That is, when the ships could leave port. Although Ardrossan was relatively sheltered, the Firth of Clyde could still produce fierce storms, and on this occasion, Lion, which operated on the Belfast run, was unable to sail. A legacy of pre-grouping company rivalries, there was little justification for the continuing use of Montgomery Pier, and as part of British Railways' rationalisation of steamer services, closure came in April 1966. Once the pride of the Caledonian Railway, the terminus station lay at the end of a double-track branch that ran for 5 miles from Stevenston Junction. Adjacent to the station lay large oil storage and bitumen refining facilities, operated by Shell BP, with access from British Railways tracks into the plant, controlled by Ardrossan No. 2 box, which was located a short distance from Montgomery Street Station. Although BR motive power entered the interchange sidings, within the complex itself, a fireless locomotive was used. Built and supplied by locomotive builders Barclays of Kilmarnock, the locomotive was purchased for preservation after the plant's rail link was severed. With a pair of Class 20 diesel locomotives at the head, a train of oil tankers leaves the oil terminal for Stevenston Junction. Passing Ardrossan No. 1 signal box, the line passed under Glasgow Street Bridge, before curving under the bridge that carried the former GSWR line to Largs. The remains of Saltcoats North Station. Inconveniently sited at the rear of the town, the station was quickly affected by the challenge of road transport. Another casualty to increased road competition was Stevenston Moor Park, which, in common with Saltcoats North, was closed by the LMS in July 1932. The junction at Stevenston comes into view, the converging lines being those of the former GSWR route to Glasgow. At this point, the cameramen bid farewell to the 20s as they continued their journey. By the early 1970s, demolition of Montgomery Pier and the branch was getting underway. With the aid of compressed air tools, even small gangs of demolition workers could make rapid progress in removing rail chairs. And after after cutting through the top inch of rail, a sledgehammer blow easily broke the rail into manageable sections. A short distance beyond Montgomery Street Station, and in the shadow of North Crescent Bridge, was Ardrossan No. 1 box. The original Caledonian Railway enamel name board still remained on the derelict shell of the signal box, a reminder of times when the box controlled access to extensive carriage sidings and an engine depot. Heading for Largs, a mixed freight passes Castle Hill Junction, the northern apex of a triangular track layout that enclosed Ardrossan Depot, the lines in the immediate foreground giving access to the depot. The 12th century Ardrossan Castle, reduced to ruins by Cromwell, dominates the skyline, creating an attractive backdrop for the movements of ex-Caledonian Railway 57590. Constructed by the GSWR in 1895, closure of the town's ex-Caledonian Railway depot in the 1930s brought an influx of Cali locos that hastened the demise of the original GSWR classes. The four-road shed was designated 67D after nationalisation, its locos handling the majority of passenger services between Glasgow, Largs and Ardrossan. In addition to Cali 060 designs, foreigners such as this ex-North British J36 put in occasional appearances, working in from Motherwell. Although this loco did have steam to travel, by 1963, when these scenes were filmed, its days were numbered. At the beginning of 1963, Ardrossan still had 6 of these 3Fs on its books, but as the year progressed, they were placed in store, and by November all 6 had been withdrawn. Stored behind the coaling stage, and also destined for the scrapyard, were 2 of Ardrossan's Fairburn tank locos and a WD-280. In 1965, the few remaining steam locos at Ardrossan were sharing the depot with diesel rail cars, although diesel maintenance was carried out at Glasgow Eastfield Depot. Although this locomotive would continue in service a little longer, before the year was out, Ardrossan Depot would close to steam completely, and 70 years of steam operations would come to a close. The depot itself surviving for a further 2 years as a driver's signing-on point. Rejoining the rail tour as it leaves Montgomery Pier for Ayr offers further views of Montgomery Street Station. At Stevenston Junction, the bridge abutments that carried the former Cali line to Glasgow are passed as the tour heads for Bar Hill Junction to gain the main line southwards to Ayr. Approaching Barassi, a rail bus is seen on the converging line from Kilmarnock. A short distance from Barassi, the harbour at Troon was the final destination for a sizable number of steam locomotives, where Arnott Youngs operated the West of Scotland Shipbreaking Company. Included in the variety of classes waiting destruction in this 1965 view was Britannia 70019 Lightning, the only one of the class to be scrapped here. The area attracted rail enthusiasts, and on the 16th of April 1965 they arrived in force with the Scottish Rambler Rail Tour, consisting of no fewer than 9 brake vans. Organised by the SLS and the Branch Line Society, the tour visited many goods-only lines around Ayr, and the use of one of these powerful freight locomotives was appropriate, as Ayrshire was a stronghold of the LMS-built 260s. The design's sharply inclined cylinders and raised footplate earned them the nickname of crabs due to their ungainly appearance, underlined in this view at Ayr Station in September 1965. North of Ayr Station, at Newton-on-Ayr, and a standard Class 5 passes the junction for the harbour lines. Following the standard 5 onto the main line, a crab heads for Ann Bank with a train of empties. Visible through the road bridge is Ayr Depot, which, like Ardrossan, lay inside a triangle of lines. Approaching the northern apex of the track layout, another crab crosses the flat crossing that gave access to the harbour, before passing the shed and heading eastwards. The 6-road Ayr Depot was a typical GSWR construction, dating from the 1870s, with the enclosing triangle for many years saving the expense of installing a turntable. Mixed traffic and freight classes formed the bulk of Ayr's loco fleet, with traffic from the numerous collieries in the Ayrshire coalfield keeping the depot busy. In the mid-1960s, coal traffic was still the mainstay of freight work at the depot, the local coalfields having avoided the general decline of the Scottish mining industry. Spurning the turntable, 2 of Ayr's principal loco types use the triangle to turn. Despite the continued work from the coalfields, Ayr could not escape the general decline of both freight and passenger rail traffic, and by 1965, many of its locomotives were in store or withdrawn. In the company of the condemned ex-LMS and BR-built locomotives was railbus number 79968, built in 1958, but like many of the locos filling the shed yard, no longer needed in the rapidly contracting rail network. Just south of Ayr, and diverging from the main line to Stranraer at Alloway Junction, a 20-mile-long coastal route connected a string of villages before rejoining the main line at Girvan. As a through route, it closed in 1942, but was reopened after the war to serve the Butlins holiday camp at Heads of Ayr, 5 miles from the town of Ayr. However, even the heavy seasonal traffic didn't justify the line's continued existence. and in September 1968, Butlins lost its rail link when the line from Alloway Junction was closed. Returning to Ayr, and the 1962 RCTS Rail Tour passengers embark on a journey to Dalmellington, 15 miles southeast of Ayr. Passing Hull House Junction, the Fairburn tank rolls through the Doon Valley on the final 7 miles to Dalmellington, where iron production gave prosperity to the area in the 19th century. Although passenger services ceased in 1964, the single-line branch remained active due to extensive coal workings in the area, centred on Waterside, 3 miles from Dalmellington. Waterside, with the massive Burnton coal washing plant in the distance, and a loaded train approaches Cutler's Sidings, the BR lines visible to the left of the train. Known officially as the West of Ayr area of the National Coal Board, the extensive rail system centred on Waterside, where it linked with the BR branch from Ayr. Motive power on the system was a stud of 060 and 040 tank engines, many of which were built by Barclays of Kilmarnock, and with 16-inch cylinders. Even the 040s were capable of moving immense loads. Shunting at Burnton Washer, and, as if to demonstrate her power, Barclay built number 10 assembles her train that eventually comprised no fewer than 103 empties. Waste from the washer was transported to Cutler's Tip in side-tipping wagons, the wooden-sided wagon acting as a tender to supplement the limited coal capacity of the locomotive.